friends, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be doing one of my most anticipated videos. Today I'm going to be reacting to The Lord of the Rings for the first time. In today's episode I'm going to be reacting to both parts 2 and 3. So I'm going to be reading The Two Towers as well as The Return of the King in today's video. If you have been here with me on my journey in spring this year, I read The Fellowship of the Ring. I absolutely fell in love with this world. However, I didn't continue right away. So today it is finally time that I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish what is The Lord of the Rings. I'm going to give you full reactions to the rest of the story, and I am so excited. I cannot wait to jump back into this world. I missed it. I missed those characters, and I'm so intrigued to see what is going to happen, so I cannot wait to jump into these books. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a disclaimer. This particular video is going to have full spoilers for Two Towers and also The Return of the King, because I really don't see the point of making video reacting to parts 2 and 3 of the book without talking about spoilers. So if you have not read The Lord of the Rings but you would like to one day, I highly recommend clicking away from this video so that you don't get spoiled of the entirety of the plot. If you're interested, I did my reaction to The Fellowship of the Ring spoiler free, or wherever I talk about minor spoilers, although I don't really explicitly say anything major that happens in the plot, but wherever I do mention any minor spoilers, I also have that separated in different chapters so that you can skip it, and that way you can kind of see my initial reaction to the world, to the writing, to the world building, to the characters without being spoiled. But this video once again is going to be full on spoilers, so please proceed with caution, only if you have read the books, or if you really don't mind, or you are so familiar with the story that you don't mind major spoilers. That's out of the way, and now I am so ready to jump back into these books. In fact, I already started The Two Towers. I'm currently on page 64, so I just wanted to give you like a couple of first impressions. So as I started this book, the first 15-20 pages were a little bit slow for me because I needed a reminder of what happened at the end of The Fellowship of the Ring, and also I was just getting back into the writing style. Now, as I said, I'm 65 pages into this book and I am fully back. I am so immersed into the story. I feel like in this part the tone has definitely shifted, at least for the beginning. It is a little bit darker. There is quite a lot of atmosphere, but also we have quite a lot of tension built up because there are sad things that are happening in this world and the conflict is rising, and all of the characters are not at ease with the things that are happening. Also, the first spoiler, once again, I hope everyone who didn't mind being spoiled clicked away. But because all of the characters got separated at the end of The Fellowship of the Ring, right now we are following Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli mostly, although I also got a chapter of Merry and Pippin. I'm very happy that Merry and Pippin are okay, because for a second I did think something might have happened to them, but something that I absolutely love these characters. I was thinking about it a lot too, fully trying to understand why I am so attached to them. I only read the first part of the 3 parts of this book, but I am absolutely loving all of these characters, and I think it's because they have so much dignity. They have so much respect for each other. Now that we see Legolas, Strider, and Gimli together, if you think about it, they are not the main characters of this expedition. Obviously it's Frodo and Sam who are, Frodo being the ring bearer. They're obviously all very important characters because they are supporting Frodo on his journey, but also they're very different characters to each other. They come from very different parts of this world and they have different customs, traditions, and so on. And seeing them together, stick together, and have so much respect for each other, and kind of that love that they have developed through their journey, even though it has been long, but it hasn't been that long that they started this journey together yet. But even despite that, they are still sticking together so strongly. And there is just so much dignity and grace in the way they behave with each other. I love these characters so much. Also, I love actually the shift towards slightly darker tone, because I feel like it makes this book even more atmospheric. Naturally, The Fellowship of the Ring being the first part, it very much gave a setup for the story, and now we're really getting into the action, which, by the way, a lot of people told me on the first video, the reaction to The Fellowship of the Ring, a lot of people told me that the books really pick up in book 2 and book 3, so I'm very excited to see that happening, and I can already kind of anticipate that from my very first, very quick impression of The Two Towers. But yes, I'm very excited to be here, to finally be back in this world. I missed it dearly, so I'm very excited to be on this journey. I really hope you're excited to come along with me, and I will give you all of my reactions as I go along these books. One last thing that I forgot to mention is that when I was reading The Fellowship of the Ring, I was listening to Andy Serkis' audiobook, which I absolutely love. However, I have been recommended many different audiobooks for The Lord of the Rings in my first video, so I have decided that for The Two Towers, I am going to be picking up the audiobook as well. However, I'm going to be listening to Rob Inglis' audiobook for that one. And once I get to The Return of the King, I'm going to be listening to Phil Dragash audiobook. So that way I can also listen to 3 parts with 3 different narrators and find the one that for me personally is going to be my favorite, although I'm sure all of them are absolutely fantastic. And I know that it might sound like not the best idea, but I'm very curious to see how these 3 very different, very talented narrators interpret this story, so that's why I decided to do it this way. And I will give you all of my impressions and opinions on the audiobooks as well. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get reading. So I forgot to mention, but I cannot believe that Tolkien killed off Boromir. He was a good one. I know he was tempted by the ring, but he was such a good character, and I feel like we didn't really spend enough time with him to really get to know him as a character. I'm going to miss him, and I think his death and his funeral specifically, when Legolas sings to him, I think it definitely sets the tone for this book. It seems like things are getting darker, and I'm liking the tone. It's just that I'm really worried about these characters. But I'm glad that we're also still getting quite a bit of humor of Tolkien. I absolutely love his sense of humor. Like, these books are so funny. I honestly think that if I knew how funny these books were, I would have picked them up a lot sooner. But I really like, there was a moment when the 3 characters, Legolas, Gimli, and Strider, they met some riders and they lended them horses. And Gimli did not want to go up on the horse. He was refusing to ride a horse. He was like, I'm not getting on that beast. That's terrifying. And then Legolas put him on his horse behind him. And so the same day, when their horses get stolen in the night, Aragorn suggests that they need to continue their journey on foot, to which Gimli replies, "Feet," said Gimli, "but we cannot eat them as well as walk on them." He threw some fuel on the fire and slumbered down beside it. "Only a few hours ago you were unwilling to sit on a horse of Rohan," laughed Legolas. "You will make a rider yet." I am absolutely in love with these characters and the way that they are written. Also, we had a scene where there was a person in a hat that was looking at the characters in the night, and they think that it's Sauron, and I did think for a second that it might be Gandalf. But then if Tolkien decides to resurrect Gandalf, I don't know how he's going to do it and how that's going to be justified. But it might be Sauron. It might be, I don't know, anyone else. So I'm going to see, but I'm very intrigued and I'm just having the best time. Hello friends, so a couple of days have passed. I am at the halfway point of The Two Towers. I feel like I'm going through this book really fast, and a lot faster than I did The Fellowship of the Ring. Whenever I pick it up, I just cannot put it down. It is so good. As of right now, I just finished the chapter The Road to Isengard, which was wonderful, and I have so many things to say, so let's unpack all of my thoughts. First of all, I am combining the audiobook and the physical book. I do enjoy Rob Inglis' audiobook, however, I have to say, I think for me personally, it is a little bit harder to understand him rather than Andy Serkis. I think because of the accent, like I do really appreciate his voice acting and the narration is really well done. But for me personally, I feel like Andy Serkis' audiobook was a little more digestible for me. I found that there were a couple of moments where I struggled because of the very descriptive scenes and very dense world building when you just get a lot of the information all at once. For example, one moment like this was when Gandalf returned, which happened. I was very excited, but I also, if you remember from my previous update, I kind of anticipated it might happen, so it wasn't a complete shock, but it was still very interesting that Tolkien decided to resurrect him. When Gandalf returned, he gave a bit more background on Saruman, which was pretty dense, and I found that I listened to that part on audiobook, but then I had to come back and actually reread it with my eyes just so that I can fully understand the background on this character. Similarly, the previous chapter, what was it called? Helm's Deep, when there was a big battle, I found that I was actually reading it with my eyes, and then I felt like I couldn't really fully picture the place where the battle was taking place. Like I couldn't really fully map everything where things were. So I actually re-listened to that part as an audiobook, and that really helped me to fully paint the picture of the things that were happening. So yeah, I do find the book a little dense at times, a little too descriptive at times. However, at the same time, this world is magnificent. There are so many details, there are so many characters, which I'm going to get to in a second, that I'm really enjoying. So it's not really a complaint as if I cannot understand the story. It is more so that I'm realizing now as I'm reading this, I know for a fact that I'm going to be rereading this multiple times in the future, because it's a type of story that has so many layers that you can digest it layer by layer as you reread it, and you find new details and new facts as you go back to the story. So that's why I definitely think I'm going to be coming back to it in the future. So my favorite part of the book thus far are its characters. I absolutely love all of these characters so much. I have said that probably like 100 times already, but they're wonderful, and the way these characters are written and their interactions are amazing. Specifically in this particular book, I'm realizing that Gimli has risen to my top favorite characters. I absolutely love him. He's so unserious and very hot-headed, but also very kind at the same time, and it's just really fun. For example, during the battle, I really loved how Legolas and Gimli, even though it is a very dire situation, and actually they were in a disadvantage for a very long time and things did not look well for them, yet Legolas and Gimli had a game where they were counting how many orcs they slayed, and they were competing against each other during the entire battle, and it was just so cute. And then there were a lot of other moments that I marked that I really enjoyed when Gimli just showed so much of his character. For example, when they were leaving Helm's Deep, Gimli was telling Legolas about the beautiful caves that he saw and how much they impressed him, and how any dwarf would find it an honor to see them. He says there, "Aye, indeed, they would pay pure gold for a brief glance, and I would give gold to be excused," said Legolas, "and double to be let out if I stayed in." "You have not seen, so I forgive your jest," said Gimli, "but you speak like a fool. Do you think those halls are fair where your king dwells under the hill of Mirkwood?" And so on. I really love this character dynamics between Legolas and Gimli. And there is another moment when finally the group makes it to Isengard and they find Merry and Pippin there. And so in this moment, as Merry and Pippin introduce themselves to the King Theoden, Gimli says, "And what about your companions? What about Legolas and me?" cried Gimli, unable to contain himself longer. "You rascals, you woolly-footed and wool-pated truants, a fine hunt you have led us. 200 leagues through fen and forest, battle and death to rescue you. And here we find you feasting and idling and smoking. Where did you come by the wheat, you villains? Hammer and tongs, I am so torn between rage and joy that if I do not burst, it will be a marvel." "You speak for me," Gimli laughed Legolas, "though I would sooner learn how they came by the wine." I love this so much. And also, I was going to actually, in this update, just before I finished this chapter of The Road to Isengard, I was going to say how much Gandalf has changed compared to the Fellowship of the Ring, because he's meant to be this wise wizard. However, in the Fellowship, he also had really bad temper, and he would lose his composure quite a few times, especially with hobbits. And here we see him now that he's Gandalf the White Rider. And in this part, he seems to be so much more serious, and he really is very honest about how terrible the things are looking in Middle-earth and how dire their situation actually is. However, the second that he sees hobbits at the end of this chapter, everything changes. Because Merry and Pippin, they talk to Theoden and they tell him the story of smoking, and then Gandalf interrupts. "You do not know your danger, Theoden," interrupted Gandalf. "These hobbits will sit on the edge of ruin and discuss the pleasures of the table or the small doings of their fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers, and remoter cousins to the 9th degree if you encourage them with undue patience." And I love the fact that the second hobbits are in Gandalf's peripherals, he just goes back to his default snappy state, because for some reason hobbits just provoke that part of Gandalf's character so much, and it's very entertaining to read about. But yeah, overall, even though now I found quite a few moments like towards the end of this chapter that were really fun and entertaining, overall I do feel the shift of the tone quite a bit, and things are getting a lot darker and a lot more serious. There was actually one dialogue between Gandalf and Theoden that I really enjoyed, that was kind of talking a lot about the state of the world, because that was the moment when everyone learned that Ents actually exist, which, by the way, I cannot wait to see more Ents. I mean, obviously now that they're entering Isengard, I imagine we're going to have a lot of interaction with Ents, and I cannot wait because I'm so curious about them and they sound like really cool creatures. Anyway, so at this moment everyone saw Ents for the first time, and then Gandalf told them that these are the creatures that people knew from legends from many centuries ago, but no one knew that they still existed. And then Theoden says, "Yet also I should be sad," said Theoden, "for however the fortune of war shall go, may it not so end that much that was fair and wonderful shall pass forever out of Middle-earth." "It may," said Gandalf. "The evil of Sauron cannot be wholly cured, nor made as if it had not been. But to such days we are doomed. Let us now go on with the journey we have begun." So it really seems like Gandalf and everyone else is a lot more pessimistic, or rather realistic, about the state of Middle-earth, and everyone now is more so understanding of the danger of Saruman and Sauron, although I have just learned that Saruman has been defeated by Ents, so that's at least one evil is gone from this world. But I imagine the battle with Sauron is not going to be quite as easy as this battle with Saruman, although I don't really know the background of the battle with Saruman yet. I feel like I really want to go on a walk and listen to the audiobook. I will also pick up the book as well and maybe do some reading in the park as well, because now that we see so many Ents, and Ents have trees living around them that are kind of alive trees that just exist and follow them and so on. I really feel like I need to be out in nature reading this book. I feel like it would be a very perfect setting for it. So I'm gonna head out on a walk and I'm going to continue reading this book. I really hope I can make more progress in the Two Towers today. For some reason, even though this world is so rich, there are so many things that are happening. Every sentence is packed with a lot of information, a lot of world building and descriptions and so on. But at the same time, I'm flying through these books so fast, and I feel like the story is just going by so fast that I almost wanted to slow down, but then I don't want to slow down my reading because I'm enjoying these books and I really want to absorb as much of the story as fast as I can. Not that as fast as I can as if it's a race, more so that I'm just so engaged that I cannot stop reading. So anyway, I'm just really excited to continue reading this book, and I will let you know how the rest of it goes. things to say about the Two Towers. First of all, I don't know if you can see, but I literally now have about just over 100 pages left of this book. It is so addictive. My eyes are glued to these pages. I cannot stop reading this. It is so addictive. It is so interesting as to what's going to happen. And Sam and Frodo are now at the gates of Mordor. And I am so worried about them, but I'm also so interested to see what's going to happen, and I just cannot stop reading it. And second of all, how does Tolkien make me care for literally every single character? Why is it that now all of a sudden I am feeling bad for Gollum and I feel pity for him and I kind of like him as a character? Smeagol, Gollum. Out of all the characters, Gollum, I feel bad for Gollum. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. Am I going to feel bad for Sauron as well? Although I don't think so, because it seems like the characters that are like evil are actually like evil in the story. I'm so nervous to see what's going to happen, but also I literally cannot stop reading this book. It is so addictive. It is so good. I'm really enjoying it. It's very different to The Fellowship in the tone, but I think I almost, I want to say I like it more just because we're so in the thick of all of the action and all of the things that are happening, but also I'm so worried about all of these characters and what is going to happen to all of them. So yeah, let's see. But I'm loving this book. It's going really well. I'm going to do more reading tonight, and then tomorrow I'm definitely finishing it, and then I will be starting The Return of the King. I just finished reading The Two Towers. It was so good. I feel like I have been sitting in this spot for hours finishing this book. I was just completely glued to its pages, but it was so good. I really like the ending of this book. Honestly, for a long time, I was convinced that Sam was going to die, and I was at the verge of tears because I was so worried that he's going to die in the lair. What's it called? The Shelop's lair. However, everything's fine. And even Frodo is okay. When Frodo died, for a minute I was like, no way. The ring bearer cannot die. Something is wrong, but he's not dead. He's definitely not dead. And then once Sam actually had to take the ring and then go out of it, I thought, wow, maybe he actually does. Maybe the whole quest goes into Sam now, and maybe that's exactly what happens. And I was so shocked by this turn of events, but I was convinced that Frodo, okay, he must be dead actually. And then, well, we find out that he doesn't die, which is great. I'm happy because my heart was breaking for poor Sam. I feel like the more they journey together, the more we see their bond and how much respect and love they have for each other, especially how much Sam feels like he owns everything to Frodo, even though it's not really the case, but he just has so much love for him and he's willing to do anything he can for him. And I really enjoyed the battle with Shalop, right? Is that the name? Shalop, sorry. So I really enjoyed the battle with Shalop. I'm going to take a small break and then I'm going to be back in this exact same spot and I'm going to be starting... Okay, it's out of my reach. Hold on. After my break, I'm going to be starting The Return of the King right away. And I really want to take it as one continuous story because this is not a trilogy. This is just one book split into 3 parts. That's a mistake that I made when I was making my Fellowship of the Ring video because at that time I thought it was actually a trilogy, but that's not the case. So anyways, I'm going to be back to reading just in a bit. I'm going to be starting The Return of the King today. I'm very excited, but I'm also really nervous because I feel like something bad might happen and I just don't want anything bad to happen to any of these characters, so we'll see how it goes. Oh, also I forgot to tell you, you know how in my last update I was saying how I feel bad for Smeagol? Well, obviously not anymore. thank you very much. But at the time, I was actually feeling kind of a bit of empathy towards him. And then there was a moment, I did think that a bit of the part when they meet Boromir's brother is a little bit outstretched. It's like another detour that they make that is not 100% necessary for the main plot. I mean, it does play a role in where they go at the end. However, I felt like it slowed down the narration just a tiny bit. And also, I was listening to Rob English audiobook, but I did have to switch to Andy Serkis for Smeagol chapters whenever I was listening to them as an audiobook, because Andy Serkis played Gollum. So it's only fair. Anyway, I wanted to share with you one funny moment with Gollum when they were talking to Faramir, and Faramir was interrogating Gollum, and he was asking him, what is he doing? Where is he going? We are lost, lost, said Gollum. No name, no business, no precious, nothing, only empty, only hungry. It's so funny. No nothing, no precious, nothing. So I mean, I guess you could see where I felt empathy for Gollum, but not anymore. He's a traitor. He is a traitor. Anyways, I'm going to take my break and then I'm going to be back reading The Return of the King. So this is going to be my first update for The Return of the King. I am now 115 pages into the book. I just finished chapter 4, which was called The Siege of Gondor. The way that chapter ended with Gandalf versus the Dark Rider of Nazgul, it was such an epic way to finish a chapter, and I'm very curious to see how this battle unfolds. I was going to say that the first couple of chapters of this book, there is a lot of war politics, a lot of moving forces and strategic planning, and I found the beginning of it a bit boring and slow. I didn't quite enjoy all of the preparations for the battle. I just thought there was a bit too much detail, I guess, for my liking, because I really wanted to follow our main characters and see what happens to them and what happens with the main story of a battle with Sauron, but also what happens to Frodo and Sam. So yeah, I found the beginning a little bit slow. Now that the fight has started, it has obviously picked up so much and a lot is happening, and I'm very worried about everyone, and I'm very curious to see how everything is going to turn out. Something that I really enjoyed about the beginning of this book is that we see all of the events from two parallel perspectives of Pippin and Merry, because they got separated, and there are so many parallels in the things that happen to them, but at the same time there are some opposite things as well. For example, both of them had to pledge their loyalty to their respected kings that they're with. So Pippin had to do that to Boromir's dad, who, by the way, terrifies me. What a scary character. The way that he spoke to his son, the brother of Boromir, was just awful. I really hated reading those dialogues, and I feel like his sons deserve so much more respect, even if Boromir got tempted by the ring. But I still feel like he was such a good warrior nevertheless. And then Merry is the one who is with Theoden, but it was just very interesting to see how the same events or very similar preparations for the war unravel from two different places, and we almost see like a mirror the perspective of the two hobbits. However, now I believe they're going to be reunited once again, and in general, now that the battle has started, the book has picked up quite a lot. Also, I did keep my promise and I checked out Phil Dragash audiobook. It's available even on YouTube and it is really good. So it's the same as if you know the app Graphic Audio, where they don't only do like the narration, they also do sound effects and the music. It's not just the voice narration, it's also the ambience around the characters, and it is so incredibly immersive. I'm really enjoying the audiobook, and especially something that I really liked is listening to the audiobook while I read with my eyes at the same time, because that way I feel like I comprehend everything that is happening, but at the same time I also get so immersed into the world. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this audiobook. Thank you whoever recommended it to me on my Fellowship of the Ring vlog. Thank you very much, because it is such a great audiobook. I'm really enjoying it. But one thing I have to say is that on one hand, I'm having fun with my audiobook experiment and testing 3 different audiobooks for the 3 parts of the same book. But I would say, as an advice, listen to each of them maybe like a little chapter and see the one that you prefer the most, because switching halfway through narration to a different audiobook might not be the smartest idea. I know, revolutionary thought, but I don't think just mixing and matching different audiobooks is the best way to go, just because specifically the voice acting for specific characters is obviously going to be inconsistent, because every narrator is going to interpret characters differently, and I struggle with that. For example, specifically Gandalf, because the way these 3 voice actors represent Gandalf is so different that I always feel like it's not quite what I imagine it should be. But then it is literally my fault, because I am mixing 3 different audiobooks. But I'm definitely really enjoying Phil Jagash audiobook. I'm really enjoying the sound design of it, so it's very immersive. And I think also because it has all the sound effects, it is the best choice for this particular part, because I imagine it's going to be the most emotional one of all, the most impactful one, and also because the stakes are so high, so the sound, the music, all of that just adds so much to the experience of reading this book. But I am really enjoying it. I'm going to continue reading it as much as I can. I'm going to be making more progress in it. I'm very worried, but also I'm very interested to see how the story is going to wrap up. I'm so glad that I decided to read this book back to back, I mean parts 2 and 3, because it's allowing me to get fully immersed into this world, and I'm really enjoying it. We'll see how the rest of this book goes, but I'm just having a really good time reading it right now. I have been reading quite a lot last night and this morning. As you can see, I am pretty much like at a halfway point of the book, although as far as I know, the end of it is a lot of like extra information and appendixes, so I think I'm actually over halfway point. I'm on page 244. There is so much that is happening. I feel like my heart rate is just going up, and I cannot stop reading this book. It's so addictive. I know that I said that the beginning of it was relatively slow. There was just a lot of moving around the forces and then preparing for the battle. But now that we're in the thick of things, everything is moving so fast, and I'm just so addicted to the writing, and I really want to know what's going to happen, but I'm also so nervous. One thing I absolutely did not expect is to lose Pippin in a battle, and it happened so fast. I feel like his death just happened so fast. I was not prepared for it at all, and it just shows how fragile poor hobbits are. They're really not made for war, but then their spirit is so strong, and I'm just, I cannot handle it. And also I just do not want to read Merry finding out that Pippin died. I'm not ready for that emotionally. And then also where I am right now, we're following Frodo and Sam, and they're on their way to the mountain. And my heart breaks for Sam every single time, because he's so absolutely precious. His love for Frodo is so strong that it's driving him to any kind of danger, and it's just so powerful to read about it. There are a couple of places that I marked. One moment that I really liked was when he was dealing with the ring. In that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped most to hold him firm, but also deep down in him lived still unconquered his plain hobbit sense. He knew in the core of his heart that he was not large enough to bear such a burden, even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him. The one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due, not a garden swollen to a realm, his own hands to use, not the hands of others to command. And then later when he rescues Frodo and then he dresses him up in the orc clothes that he found, he tells, "Well, there you are, Mr. Frodo, a perfect little orc, if I may be so bold." How cute is that? And then they start like their regular humor, and even in the darkest times they still treat each other with so much love and respect. And then in the same scene, Frodo tells him that he's hungry, and he says, "I hope you've made inquiries about inns along the road, or have you forgotten about food and drink?" Like, how cute is that? Come on, that's so cute. When they drink some water that they don't really know if it's drinkable, Sam offers to drink it first, And then Frodo replies, "All right, there is room enough for two." "I didn't mean that," said Sam. "I mean, if it's poisonous or something, that will show its badness quick. Well, better me than you, Master, if you understand me." "I do, but I think we'll trust our luck together, Sam, or our blessing. Still, be careful now, it's very cold." And this here is probably one of my favorite moments. They stopped for the night on their way to the mountain, and then Frodo went to sleep and Sam is the one who's keeping watch. There, peeping among the cloud wrack above a dark, for high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. Sam Gamgee is truly breaking my heart. I worry that something is going to happen to him, and their relationship is just incredible. I'm loving reading about them, but also I'm just loving all of the events. I feel like I'm so engaged in this part when they're in Mordor, even though I don't really want anything bad to happen to them, but also it is so like atmospheric and there's so much build up, there's so much tension, and I feel like literally my heart rate is going up as I'm reading this book. I feel like I don't have that long left of the book, and I worry, but also I'm so curious. So I'm going to carry on. I'm thinking of trying to finishing this book today. Let's see if that happens, and I will keep you updated on how it's going. Right now I'm in the middle of the Land of Shadow chapter, so I think they're approaching the mountain soon-ish, and then I will see what happens. I'll talk to you in a bit. Hello friends, I cannot believe what I'm about to say, but I have just finished The Return of the King, and with that I have finished the entire The Lord of the Rings book. I cannot believe that we are here. I am so glad that I got to experience it for the first time. This was such an amazing journey. It was a long journey. There was so much that has happened on this journey, but I am so extremely happy that I decided to read these books because I got so much out of them. It was such an experience, a full, well-rounded, emotional experience that I'm very glad that I had. And I'm definitely going to be going back to this story eventually in the future. I totally understand now why these books are like comfort reads for so many people and why people go back to this world over and over. I can absolutely see how it is addictive and how there is so much that you can get out of these stories, and they are so comforting and they're so kind and they're so hopeful, but then there's also so much that happens. I absolutely loved my time reading this book. I would say my favorite one out of all would probably be The Two Towers. I really love The Two Towers. I also really love The Fellowship, even though like there is quite a lot of exposition that I enjoyed. It's just that I really loved the part where we already met all of the characters and we saw a lot of the interactions between them and then the preparations for the battles and so on. So I think I would say that The Two Towers is going to be my favorite part for now. Maybe that is something that's going to change in the future. We're going to see. As for The Return of the King, I am very happy that the king is back. I really liked the resolution to all of the conflicts of this world. I have to say, I was extremely nervous. I was convinced that Sam Gamgee was going to die, or Frodo was going to die in the destroyment of the ring, and Sam would be left alone without him. I was so nervous and I had so much tension built up in me for that moment, and then it didn't happen, and obviously I was very glad and happy that none of the characters died at that time. But yeah, I was so nervous for all of the events that were happening in Mordor, and I absolutely loved the part of Mordor. As I said, I really loved the atmosphere, the tension build up, and all of the range of, I loved how we saw all of the events from different perspectives. So we kind of got like parallel timelines from different points of views, and that was really fun. And I think I really did not expect like the epilogue or the part after the destruction of the ring to be as long as it was. But as I was reading it, I reminded myself that this is not an epilogue to just this like 400 or however long page book. This is an epilogue to the entire it is one big book, which is The Lord of the Rings. And considering how long the story is, it totally makes sense that its epilogue is going to be as long as it was. And also, I really appreciated seeing that things in the Shire also have changed so much. And as sad as it was to see, it also made so much sense because this was such a overpowering war. It really touched every single corner of this world, and not one person was untouched by the events that happened. Also, I was very surprised by the fact that we never saw Sauron as a person. It was always just someone who is out there in the tower, but then we never actually got introduced to the character. But I guess for the main characters, it was for the better, and also it was just kind of like an off-screen type of character that had so much power over the world without even having to show their face, which I thought it was very interesting. It's not something that I expected, but it was an interesting way to tell the story, and I appreciated it. Also, something that I didn't say about the epilogue is, even though it is long, I also really enjoyed that besides having the things that are bad and the sad consequences that we saw of the war in the Shire, at the same time we also saw so much good. I loved all of the farewells. I really loved that we were really given a lot of time to say goodbye to all of the characters and see them off on their journey further beyond these books. I think for me personally, one of the most powerful parts about these books were the characters. I grew so incredibly attached to all of them. I loved all of the character relationships and dynamics in this book. And this entire story is filled with so much love and kindness and warmth, and I will definitely think about these characters for a very, very long time. Also, the very ending of this book touched me very much because I think after the destruction of the ring, I really kind of let it go in a way because everyone survived, and for a minute I almost was a bit taken aback by how quickly everything resolved. And then I got really happy because for most part everything was well and everyone was happy. However, I think because I emotionally relaxed because the war was over, I was not emotionally prepared for the very, very end of this book, and it has taken me aback a little bit. It makes sense for the story completely for Frodo to die and for Gandalf to die as well. But then at the same time, I was just so sad to see that and to see the parting of Sam and Frodo, but at the same time, for Sam to finally have his life back, even though they went on their journey for only a year or so. But Sam has devoted so much to the quest and to Frodo specifically that he does deserve to just be for himself and be happy with his life, whatever he chooses his life to be. But still, the parting of the hobbits was very emotional to me, and it was really sad, but also it makes so much sense, and I just loved the ending of this book. I think it ended perfectly, and this entire story is just a magnificent work of art, and I appreciated it very much. I also, as I told you, I tested 3 different audiobooks throughout the course of reading The Lord of the Rings. So my very first video of The Fellowship, I listened to Andy Serkis audiobook. Then for the second part, I listened to Rob Inglis audiobook. And even though at first I wasn't used to his voice and his style of narration, I actually grew really fond of that audiobook as well. So please don't take my criticism. It is a great audiobook and it is a very good narration, of course. And then lastly, I also listened to Phil Dragash audiobook for The Return of the King. I also really enjoyed it. I loved how immersive it is because it has all the sound effects, all the music. I have to say that I probably listened to the least amount of audiobook for The Return of the King compared to parts 1 and 2, just because I really wanted to experience the entire story with my own eyes, with my own emotions as I read it. So I didn't end up listening to too much of that that audiobook, but I did enjoy it. I wasn't used to the voices of different characters naturally, just because I listened to multiple narrators telling the same story. But still, I really, really enjoyed it. It is a very great option if you want something that is very immersive, that has all of the music and the sound effects and so on. So all 3 audiobooks are absolutely wonderful, and I had a great time listening to them as well. As for my favorite, it would have to be Andy Serkis' audiobook still. I think it's because it's the first one that I listened to that I really got used to his narration and his voice acting, but I did actually genuinely really enjoyed all 3 of them. And whenever I go back to this story, I will gladly listen to either of those audiobooks again. And so with that, my journey with The Lord of the Rings has come to an end. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. If you stayed here until the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing my journey with this book with me. It was such a fun experience. I really hope that you had fun watching this video and coming along this journey with me. Please let me know in the comments any of your thoughts of the books. Do you agree with my opinions on The Return of the King? Which one is your favorite part out of the 3? I would love to chat to you about all things Lord of the Rings in the comments. It's always my favorite part of doing this, is talking to you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here so much. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.